Okay, everybody. So first of all, Shavua Tov, B'ezrat Hashem. This will be a good week for us. We should see a lot of blessing and happiness, a lot of peace, a lot of joy. Hopefully, we should grow a lot closer to Hashem tonight. B'ezrat Hashem, with your help. I asked that for the class. You're not on your phones. I know this isn't elementary school, but I find that one of the reasons people have trouble getting things out of their life in general, not just in class, but just period, is that we're not present. And the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbi Nachman say you are where your thoughts are, or where your mind is, literally. So what does that mean, that you are where your thoughts are literally? That means that if you are on your phone and someone says, yo, bro, you here? You're going to, yeah, what are you talking about, Bitul? What's going on? Of course I'm here. And what's the answer? According to Chassidus and Kabbalah, you're not here, you're on your phone. Does everybody understand? It makes sense, no? You are wherever your mind is. So if, like Rabbi Nachman, they ask you, where are you going? And he's in Ukraine, and in his mind, he's going to Israel, meaning he's going to achieve his highest level of spiritual potential in his life. So they'd ask him, where are you going? And he replied honestly, without lying, wherever I'm going to the land of Israel. Because you are where your thoughts are. So make your thoughts where you want to be. So B'ezrat Hashem, if you guys want to have something good come out of tonight, you should have your thoughts here. Tonight's class is going to be difficult. Okay? You guys are going to have to think a little harder than usual. I apologize, whether it's because of my lack of teaching skills or it's because I created this class last night. And I had a glass of wine, my mind was running. But sometimes that comes out with an even better class, because if you drink wine for the right reasons, then when the yain goes in, the secret comes out. What's the deep secret of that statement of Chazal, the sages, that the same gematria of yain, 70, is that of sod, secret, 70. Okay. This is also not a back and forth conversation. So the questions are just for the answer, and that's it. Okay. So now I was working on a lesson on my own, which is a lesson in Likutei Halachot. For anyone who doesn't know, Rabbi Nachman's main student, his master pupil, his name was Natan. Natan was so mesmerized by Rabbi Nachman, his wisdom, his knowledge, his advice, his presence, that even though he knew more than most people in the entire generation by the time he met Rabbi Nachman, he made it as if he knew nothing. And they asked him how he could so totally nullify his own knowledge to somebody else when he already knew so much. And he said, because what is a lot in the face of everything? Nothing. You take a ray of light and you put it and you attach it to the sun. What happens to the ray of light as you bring it closer to the sun? Why not? Because the sun subsumes the light. You know that word? Subsumes means that it incorporates the light within itself to the extent that you no longer see the light, but is the light there? Yes. But it no longer exists on its own. Rav Natan understood that Rabbi Nachman was the root of his soul. And it's taught in Chassidut and Kabbalah that the root of your soul is like the sun to your ray. And when you're in contact with that source, then the best thing you can do in the world would be to connect. And by connecting, to some degree, you lose yourself. But it's not the type of losing yourself that you don't like. It's the type of losing yourself that you love. Like, for instance, when you're with your friends and you're all hanging out listening to music, you go to a concert, you're hanging out with your boys, you're making shashlik. You forget everything that's going on in your life. You're just there. But what did you forget about for that moment? Yourself. So if you want to know the key to happiness, it is called Bitul, and that is a perfect introduction to our lesson. Last month, every month actually, according to Sefer Yetzirah, Sefer Yetzirah is the oldest Kabbalistic text that we have. It's 2,000 years old. That's when it was introduced. And it's actually attributed to Avram Avinu. that even though it was written then, the wisdom itself comes from Avraham Avinu. So this is the original book on Kabbalah. It's called Sefer Yetzirah. In that book, it explains that every single month has its own spiritual energy. How does that work? Hashem's name is made up of 4 letters. There are 12 basic ways to rearrange those letters. Every single month, so to speak, Hashem's name reveals itself in a different way. And because of that, there is a different feel for each month. Like for instance, anybody notice when you go to Miami or you go to Florida, there's a feel to that place. When you go to New York, there's a feel to that place. When you go to Chi-Town, Chicago, there's a feel to that place. When you're in Cali, there's a feel to that place. Are they not places? They're all places, no? They all have a different energy. Every month has a different energy based on a different configuration, ordering of Hashem's name. Because everything in the world, Rabbi Nachman teaches, is really only a revelation of God, just a different one. Last month was the month of Kislev. This is the famous month where we have Hanukkah. Every single month, the Sefer Yetzirah has a different chuch, has a different sense. What's the sense of Hanukkah or Kislev? It's a word that's called bitachon. Bitachon means confidence or trust. What kind of trust? What would be, let's say, the difference between bitachon and, let's say, emunah? You can't have one without the other. Very good. Rabbi Nachman would say the same. But just to make it simple, trust is when you actively have faith, right? I could believe in general my life is going to get better, but I may not live according to that belief. Bitachon would be if I literally lived as if it's going to get better, because I trust the fact that it will, and I live like that. So anybody who's hearing this could know that the difference between, let's say, having simple faith and having bitachon is the difference between living a very happy life or living a very scared, anxious, sad life. Because bitachon is emunah applied. Trust is faith when you apply it. Last month of Hanukkah, why is that the energy? Because on paper, there is no way that the Jewish people, everybody sitting down with their peyot, learning Torah, would be able to overcome a group of people who were the world power at the time. These were the Greeks. They were no joke. If you look even in the secular books, you will see that Alexander the Great and all of the Greeks, they were very close to threatening to taking over the entire world and becoming a unified world power. All of a sudden, they get to this little country the size of New Jersey, and they see an unusual sight. They see a group of people, instead of doing chest bumps and grilling meat, they were all sitting and talking about wisdom, which they thought was very intriguing. Why? Because the Greeks themselves, even though they were very into working out, that's where the workout culture comes from, actually. Gym tan laundry comes from the Greeks. Yes. Olympia, very good. But they also loved wisdom. And they actually very much appreciated the fact that the Jewish people were so into it as well. However, they were into 2 different types of wisdom. The wisdom the Jews were into was spiritual wisdom. The wisdom that the Greeks were into, we'll call it science or philosophy. As we know, Rabbi Nachman says it's asur to learn secular wisdom. Why? According to halakha, it's not a problem. What's the problem with learning secular wisdom? So Rabbi Nachman teaches that secular wisdom is like spiritual wisdom, bli, without emunah and bitachon. The essence of emunah and trust in Hashem is removed from the wisdom. So Rabbi Nachman says, how beneficial is wisdom when the root of reality is not included in the wisdom? If I told you right now that when I leave here, I do 7 backflips, how valuable would that be for you? Very valuable. I believe you feel like that. But what's the only answer to that question? Besides the fact that you could say that your rabbi is doing 7 backflips when he leaves the class.
And you really do.
Okay, good. There's no benefit. So that's an idea or that's a knowledge, but that's not wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge that's good for you. Comes Rabbi Nachman to say, if the knowledge is not bringing you closer to reality, what's that wisdom called? He says it's called stupidity. Shtuyot, foolishness. Rav Natan compares it to what you leave in the bathroom when you flush. Seriously. Excess. No, but it's a very, very beautiful point. He's not just saying it's worthless. He's saying it's excess. Excess. Okay. So what's the only way we were going to be able to win that war of Hanukkah? We needed to have something called bitachon, trust. Bitachon. Not just that I have emunah, that I have faith, that Hashem will help me, but I literally have to put myself out there with that belief, which is much harder. Much, much harder. What's the first 2 letters of the word bitachon? A bet and a tet. If you now go to our month, which is the month of Tevet, which we just started recently, what are the first 2 letters of this month? A bet and a tuf. Sorry, bet and a tet. The same first 2 letters of last month are the first 2 letters of this month. What's the reason? Because if you'll notice, according to Sefer Yetzirah, what's the chush, what's the feeling of this month? It's not bitachon, it's called bitul. Bitul. Which happens to have the same first 2 letters. Okay? Bitul. What does bitul mean? What's the difference between bitul this month and bitachon? I'm going to give you a clue. Besides the fact that every month has its own energy, every month has its own difficulty that you have to work through. This one is quite unpleasant. And there's a good chance you've all already tasted it. So when I tell you, you might say, aha, after that. And that is a midah that's called kas, anger. That in this month, you have to deal with a quality that's called anger. The tikkun, the fixing of this quality, is called bitul. Self-nullification. Self means ego. Rabbi Nachman teaches, what is the only reason a person gets angry? He has to have an ego. To what degree can a person get angry? To that degree in which he has an ego. So who is the angriest person in the world?
The most hungry.
The person who has the biggest ego. Who is the least angry person in the world? The one who thinks nothing of himself. What were we taught as kids? That we should make sure that everybody revolves around us, ourself. And when we grow up, we go to school for ourselves. We get a job for ourselves. We get married for ourselves. We have kids, if you're secular, by accident for yourself, or after you have a dog and you're 30, whatever. Also for yourself, because your friends have it, and you start on Keeping Up with the Kardashians or something. Is that show still on? No?
Unfortunately.
Okay. I try and throw these terms out. I haven't watched TV in a while, so I'm hoping that they stick. But all of it, it's for yourself. Even when you help somebody else, why are you helping them? Because it makes you feel good. Self. All of Western society is based on self. What happens when your self gets hurt? You get angry. And what happens if your whole life is built on fulfillment of self? Then every time things don't go your way, you get angrier and angrier and angrier. Comes the Torah and Rabbi Nachman to teach you that the entire key to achieving peace in your life, which is the opposite of anger, which you have the ability to tap into, is through complete bitul, self-nullification, that I don't have a self. Now you're going to say, but that sounds like it's going to kill my self-confidence, right? If I think nothing of myself, well, I already feel bad about myself. I already feel like I'm a loser. I'm already struggling to get married. I'm already struggling to stay married. I'm struggling to raise my kids. I'm struggling to listen to my parents. I'm struggling at school. I'm struggling at work. So how much more can I take that instead of already feeling like myself, I'm also going to think that I do? So this is not bitul. Because if you have self-nullification, that you are not concerned with your ego, then you can't feel bad about yourself because you don't exist. Where does self-doubt come from? Self. This is something that you couldn't pay a psychologist $1 million to teach you because only Hasidus knows this. We all go to see therapists. We all go to different social workers and guidance counselors, self-help books, psychology, pop psychology books, motivational speakers. And they all give you what I call candy. What will they do? They'll have you focus.
Take pills.
Okay, that's another thing. They'll have you focus on good points about yourself. Think about those things. But they're actually missing the point. Because the whole issue with self-esteem comes with your concern with self. So it's like medicine when you have a disease. What does medicine do? It alleviates the symptoms temporarily, but it doesn't get rid of the disease. The disease of lack of self-confidence comes with your deep, pervasive concern with self. But let's say, for instance, you grew up in a society where it was not based on capitalism. It was not based on you making as much money as possible. It was not based on you achieving at the expense of your friends and family. Then you'll see in those countries, there is much less rates of lack of self-confidence. Why do they have less problems with this issue? Does anybody know, based on what we just said? That was not rhetorical. That was a real question. Does anybody know why the more that the culture is focused on the collective and less on the individual, the less they have psychological disease and illness? Because they're not concerned with their self. And the Torah teaches that all malfunction of spiritual, emotional health comes from concern with self. So now if we look at the depression and anxiety rates in Western civilization, you will see they have skyrocketed in the past 20 years. They are much higher than anywhere else in the world, pretty much. And it's not even close. What's the reason? Because every moment we are on our iPhone, everything. iPhone, iPad, paid. Is that a real thing? And as Benny likes to say, if you look at the back of the phone, you'll see the apple. If anybody knows the story of Adam and Chava in the garden, they were very happy in the garden. And then what happened to them? Hashem said, don't eat from that tree. What are these two trees? The tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and its opposite. The tree of life is the tree of Bitul. It's the tree of, I have no ego. I have no self that exists outside of Hashem, outside of the collective reality of the universe. The tree of Da'at, of Tov Ra, was the beginning of ego. You'll notice before that, it said that Adam could see from one end of the universe to the other. And after he ate from the tree, he said, but you gave me this wife. He didn't speak like that before he ate from the tree. What's the reason? because he didn't look at her as separate from him before. They were one. He was very happy. What happened afterwards? He became self-conscious. Self-consciousness does not come from low self-esteem. Low self-esteem comes from self-consciousness. Why do you think that people cannot wait to get drunk? Can't wait to get high? Because all day they're busy running after themselves. And you know how they feel? Angry, confused, annoyed, bothered, irritated. And the list goes on and on. Those are terrible feelings. What makes me lose those feelings? When I lose sense of self. What's an easy way to do that? Go get high. And because we've never been more concerned with ourselves, we've never had higher rates of drug use. Because I need to get out of feeling and thinking about myself because it's so painful. Rabbi Nachman teaches there is one other way you can achieve Bitul, that you can nullify your sense of self in a healthy way, in a happy way, without using substances which destroy your mind and eat holes in it and make you feel terrible when you come down. It's called Devekut with Hashem. It's called Hitkashrut with the Tzaddik. That you have attachment with the spiritual master. That you draw your life force and energy from spirituality, from godliness. And when you do this, then it's the greatest form of self-nullification. It's like, for instance, if you ever danced in a circle with your friends and you got so into it, you will completely lose yourself. But you didn't have to pay for that, and it didn't hurt your health. It's good for you. So, except the dancing could be literally coming place from inside of you. The whole entire avoda of the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbi Nachman is to get you to feel like you're dancing every day, no matter what's going on in your life, through this thing that's called Bitul. What is the greatest opportunity you have to work on this quality in the month that you get the angriest? Because the only way to overcome your anger is through nullification of self. Let's say, for instance, not that I know anything about this, but you get into a fight with your spouse, and it's seemingly out of nowhere. Everything was going well for like a week, right? You're having dinner together. Oh, this is great, X, Y, and Z, talking about this, very nice. All of a sudden, she says one thing, and before you know it, you're in the greatest verbal fight you had in years. You're screaming, she's crying, the door is slamming, and you sit down and you say, how did all that happen? How did that just happen? We were just having Monty 5 minutes ago. Is that what you call it?
Monty.
Oh, sorry, Monty. And it was so good. I want to go back. How do I go back? What happened? Okay. So in this moment, if you were me, let's say, for the past 30 years of my life before I met Rabbi Nachman, so you would either sit and think on this topic for the next 10 hours and not sleep all night and feel terrible about yourself, or because of the anxiety that you feel about the fact that your spouse is so mad at you, you're going to go into the room and you're going to scream until she says, I agree with you. And then you feel better about yourself. So you don't have many good options here. Or you could sit down and say, Hashem, I got into a fight because you wanted me to. That's why I just got into a fight. Not because I made a life-ending mistake, not because my wife made the most insensitive comment because she was trying to hurt me, but I'm in a situation that I got angry right now because Hashem wants me to be. And Hashem only does what he wants to do for one reason, to bring you closer to him because he loves you. Now, I want you to imagine the different mental space between these two situations. In the first case, you have every single type of negative emotion in the book, and your life literally feels like a chaos that could not get worse. Or you could sit in that moment and say, I was just taught that this month I'm going to have tests in anger that I didn't have all year. I'm getting angry right now because Hashem is testing me. Why is Hashem testing me? Is he some type of extreme school teacher? No. Because Hashem loves you. Because Hashem loves you. And he knows that the cause of your suffering in your life is your concern with self. The only way to nullify your concern with self is to experience anger and to deal with it properly. How do you deal with it properly? Again, this is something in the spiritual language that's called Bitul. To nullify your ego. That doesn't mean I'm a terrible person. I'm a horrible person. Here we go again. I'm such a loser. That's not Bitul. That's asur. You're not allowed to do that. That's called mayayishing yourself. That's called making yourself despair. It's asur. Like eating treif. Wow. Bitul means I am not the sole cause of what's taking place. There is a source of reality that is causing events to take place in my life, and now the outcome is what's happened right now. Now, what's going to be my response to that? I'm going to sit down on my couch. I'm going to sit down on my couch. I'm probably going to cry because I'm so frustrated. And I'm going to say to Hashem, Hashem, thank you for making me feel so out of control. Thank you, Hashem, for making me feel that I cannot take care of myself on my own. Because the whole cause of my suffering in my life is coming from the fact that I think that I control my life. Hashem, I admit to you, I don't. Because I just tried my best. We had Monty 5 minutes ago, and now we're having, and I'm thinking of a witty term, but I can't think of anything right now. We're having a terrible fight right now. So this is the best I could do. What's the point? That you should say to Hashem, Hashem, I need you to help me. And I don't know why you're doing this to me, but the only thing that I know for sure is it's bringing me something called closer to you. Because I wasn't speaking to you today, and now I am.
What if it doesn't bring the person to speak to us?
Then it will happen again.
Does it get more intense?
It could get much more intense. And if you think this sounds cruel, but you have to understand, this thing is getting in the way of everything for you. The fact that you're unhappy is not because something's not working out in your life. You're unhappy because you think that things should work out the way that you want them to. And they're not. And that's not your lacking. That's nobody's fault. It's because you're not God. And that's fine. It's totally fine. You're good. I want to show you a very interesting piece in Likutei Halachot now with that introduction. Rabbi Nachman used to say that my whole mission is Rosh Hashanah. Everybody knows, Uman, Uman, Rosh Hashanah, Uman, Uman, Rosh Hashanah, Uman, Uman, Rosh Hashanah, right? Not in a terrible voice like that, something nicer. But Uman, Rosh Hashanah. What happened on the first Rosh Hashanah in history?
Adam was created.
This is my student's favorite story. Adam and Chava. Does anybody know that was Rosh Hashanah? Does anybody know that Rosh Hashanah was not the first day that the world was created, but the first day that man was created? Adam.
Which month was that?
It's a machloket. Tishrei, or before Tishrei. But we say, we paskin, according to halacha, it's the first of Tishrei. This is called Rosh Hashanah. Okay. Does anybody notice that Adam Rishon was put to sleep before they came out with anesthetics? Okay, good. I'm sure you've been looking at that every day now. I see you're getting excited over it. I believe you. You guys love that story. Okay, so listen.
It's an alien spaceship.
Okay, 1 second. So now Adam fell asleep. Why did Adam fall asleep? So now we're going to have to go even deeper. And Rav Natan is going to bring the Arizal. The Arizal is the greatest Kabbalist who ever lived. And he is the source for how we understand all deep spiritual knowledge. He says that the reason why Adam went to sleep is because we have two forms of consciousness. So everybody try and stay with me. There's something called Malchut, and there's something called, we'll call it, I don't know, Zah. Okay? Yeah. Okay. We don't have to comment on every single word. Just 1 second. You have something called Zah, and you have something called, we'll call it actually Nukva. Okay? Zah and Nukva. Just try and stay with me. I know these are new terms. We're going to call Adam Zah. We're going to call Chava Nukva. What's the concept of Adam or Zah? That is that Hashem is the cause of everything that's taking place in my life. You have Chava or Nukva. This means that I'm the cause of what's taking place in my life. Rabbi Nachman explains that this is the concept of Beseder or Lo Beseder. You have the concept of things are going according to a nice way, or things are going the opposite of the way that you'd want them to. Beseder or Lo Beseder. Adam or Chava. Zah or Nukva. Okay. If you'll notice, when Adam was created, Adam and Chava were one. What does that mean? Like we said in the beginning, Chava was like the ray to Adam's son. That means that even though Chava existed, she was subsumed within Adam. And Adam's whole consciousness was Ein O Milvado. There's nothing else besides Hashem. So that means that anything that would happen to Chava, she would automatically think this is from Hashem. But not because she thinks like that, but because she was attached to Adam. And then Adam was put to sleep, separated. And Chava was separated from him. So listen to what it says now. Sha'ata bitul shehu bechinat sheina. Bitul, self-nullification, is the concept of sleep. What did it mean that Adam went to sleep? It means he engaged in nullification of self. He stopped existing at that moment. Dainu, meaning she'ein anu mish tamshin b'shum chochma. Meaning simply, he took everything that he knew and he threw it away. Everybody here thinks that they understand their life, right? We all think that we have some type of understanding. Did you ever for a moment feel that you don't understand anything? Not because you're not intelligent, but because you simply can't. When is that advantageous? When is that beneficial? When things are lo kaseder. When things are happening in your life not the way you want them to. What does Rabbi Nachman say to do at that very moment? Go to sleep. What type of sleep? Not a normal sleep. What the Torah calls tardema, a deep sleep. A normal sleep, you're like chetzi conscious, a little bit conscious. Tardema, you're unconscious. What does it mean to be unconscious? Ani lo yodea. I don't know anything. No, not darkness. I don't know what's going on. Right. Azai anu nichlalin lamala mechochmat Adam. And then we are encompassed above in the chochma of Adam. Meaning, ein o milvado. Whatever's happening is because Hashem wants it to. This is what it means to nullify your own understanding. And if you're going to ask, so why can't I understand why Hashem's doing it? Because the answer is, you're not God. If you thought about it just for a second, if you could understand why Hashem was doing what he was doing for you, in the words of a famous rabbi that I forget his name, he said, that guy is not so great. If I understand why he's doing what he's doing, that means that his level of intellect is not so sweet. It's not so great. So whenever what's happening is happening and I go to sleep, meaning I go into the state of Adam, that I realize that everything is from Hashem. How do I do this? Ki ayade tamimut. I do it through innocence, ufashitut, through simplicity, ve'emunah, and through emunah, olin lamala me'amach va'chochma, and I enter into a state called God consciousness. Does anybody know that the reason why Rabbi Nachman was so makpid that his students should be simple, like children, that they should pray like children, that they should learn like children, that they should live like children? Because when you're a child, life is interesting. Life is exciting. Anything can happen. Every moment's new. What happens when you get a little bit older, especially when you hit puberty? The emotional turbulence hits in. Your friends betray you. Your girlfriend breaks your heart. Your boyfriend cheats on you, Has v'shalom. No, it never happened? Okay, good. Not to me. I'll ask your wife about that after. And the list goes on and on. All of a sudden, you become much more aware of how much negative stuff is going on in the world. And you realize that it's the same old story every day. Oh, here we go again. I got to get up. I got to go to work. I got to do this. I have to hang out with this friend again. I hate hanging out with this friend. I have to go to this class. I hate this class. I have to do this. I don't like doing this. I have to dress up. Ugh, this guy's not even cute. And you go on a whole entire thing. Right? You guys, I was talking about you guys, not that. Wrong crowd. Okay. So anyway, but what if you're a child again? Have you guys been near children recently? Little children?
Yeah. No problem.
You ever notice how excited they are?
Full of energy.
Non-stop, always excited about the next moment. Anything could be. They'll take a stick and they'll pretend they're a robot.
Oh,
They'll look at a book and they'll go crazy. Oh, what's this thing? And what's that? And what's that? And what's this? What's the difference between them and us? They're simple and we're not. That's it. We got older and the Yetzer Hara took over and we became sophisticated. But if we can get back to our childlike state, which we're going to learn how to do that in the 5th Torah Likutei Moharan, that's on Tuesday night, then what happens is you enter into God consciousness. Then we are being led by Hashem in simplicity without any wisdom. This is the concept of drawing down consciousness and life force to your faith. That's not coming through Zer Enpin. So listen to what we're going to say now, okay? I know that it's a little confusing what we said so far in Kabbalistic terminology, but I have to add another term. And I'll put it very simply. So far, we're dealing with 2 levels of consciousness. There are the level of Chava and Adam. Right? Those are both in this world. Is there a level of consciousness which is higher than Adam's? Yes. This comes from the sphera that's called Bina, or mother. In the language of Kabbalah and Chassidut, they call her the Ima Ilah, the upper mother, the transcendent mother. Okay? So listen to what we're about to say now. When you're trying to use your own mind, then you can only understand whatever you understand. And then Hashem lets you go according to the laws of nature. But what happens if you take everything that you know, you throw it on the side, you say, Hashem, I believe in you, I trust you, I'm going to live as if this was good for me. And I'm going to do things that are going to make me happy, even though if anybody saw my situation, I should just be laying in my bed crying. And instead, I'm going to go out and dance and sing and have fun. then at that moment, you draw down consciousness, not from Adam, not from Chava, but from Bina. Bina comes from above this world. It comes from Olam Haba. And then what happens if you're drawing down life force from Olam Haba? You're not only happy no matter what's going on, but you now get assistance in a supernatural way. If you ever hung out with Breslovers enough, and I'm not talking about just like people who wear fire sweatshirts and dance and sing and listen to techno music, but if you listen to people who literally have connected themselves to this wisdom and try and live with it every day, you ask them, they'll tell you that they experience miracles all the time. What's the reason they get to experience miracles all the time? Because even though they work every day at knowing more and more, when anything happens in their life, they take whatever they know, they throw it on the side. And even though it looks like Rabbi Nachman is encouraging ignorance, he's actually encouraging that you draw down life force and consciousness from a place which transcends this world. That only happens when you have something called Bitul. You nullify your own understanding. When you nullify yourself completely, then you don't just try to understand like Adam does, like a person does, even at the highest level. You actually draw down understanding from a place which is lamala lamala, way above even the universe, from this upper mother. And that is the place of all God consciousness. That is the place of all joy. That is the place of all peace. That is the place of all connection, all life force, all energy, all inner strength. And after that, you now wake up from your sleep. Because through your sleeping, you merited to higher understanding. There was a student who came to Rabbi Nachman once, and he said, I'm having trouble getting my prayers answered. He told him, learn Torah. So he started to learn. The issue was, he didn't really know how to. He came back to Rabbi Nachman and says, I don't understand this. Can you help me? He said, keep learning it without understanding. If you keep learning without understanding, eventually your understanding will be as bright as the light of the sun. Now, if you go into the secular world or even into a yeshiva and you say, I simply do not understand this, I've been working on it for a long time and I can't understand it, what would they likely suggest to you? Get a tutor. Try something else, maybe something a little easier. What would Rabbi Nachman suggest you do? Go outside and cry to Hashem and ask him to understand whatever you're learning. What do you mean? That's not how you learn things. You learn things by you forcing yourself to figure it out.
Learn it over 50 million times.
It said about Rabbi Nachman that every single thing that he tried to learn when he was a kid, he struggled with all of it, including Pshat. He didn't even understand the simple understanding of the Torah, no matter how many times he learned it. What would he do? He'd go outside, he'd start crying to Hashem, Hashem, please help me to understand it. Ultimately, by the time he was 10, he knew the whole Torah. But it didn't come from him intellectually saying, I control what I understand. He said, I don't control what I understand. You do. And as a result of that, he stopped drawing from the consciousness of this world. He drew then from the consciousness of Olam Haba. So listen to what it says here. And with this, we'll try and tie the whole thing together. What is the cause of your inability to let go of what you feel you should understand? The answer is something that's called gava. This is very, very subtle. Oh, you don't have to actually go outside. It's just the concept of letting go, okay? For him, it was easier to let go outside. Why is it that we cannot give up on a situation? Why won't we give up on something working out the way we want it to? And this is very, very subtle. It's very, very deep. But it's because you think and believe that you should understand what's going on right now. So the question is, who taught you that? Who taught you that you should understand what's going on right now? Public school, your parents, Western society, yeshiva. Everybody who lives according to Teva, that is, that we run the world. But if you believe that Hashem runs the world and Hashem's intellect is unlimited, and if something's unlimited, you can't even begin to fathom it. So if you can't begin to fathom anything that Hashem knows and does, why should you understand what's happening? You shouldn't.
Why? Because it sounds ignorant a little bit.
Why?
Because if you think you understand everything, then you're better than God.
Okay. So what we're saying here, and this is something that I struggled with my whole life, I had this inner itch that I need to understand why this is happening. And I won't let go of this thing until I figure it out. Or if something happens the way I don't want it, then I will sit there and I will reject and resist what's happening in my life because it can't be this way. It shouldn't be this way. Why not? Why not? The reason is,
Could be because it hurts also.
why does it hurt? Because you feel like it should be another way. And very, very subtly, that comes from something called gava, arrogance. Gava is the gematria 15. This is the same, says the Arizal, says Rav Natan here, as the first two letters of Hashem's name. The first two letters of Hashem's name represent Hashem's consciousness, not our limited understanding. What happens when you have gava? You knock out the first two letters of Hashem's name for yourself. You never get to experience the world as Hashem does. Good. Because you're busy with your limited understanding. But when you bitul, you nullify your gava, that 15, then you get to 15 of the first two letters of Hashem's name. You get to experience the world with a consciousness that comes from something above this world. And then you can go through anything and still feel and experience that it's good, that it's happy, that it's joyful, that it's worth living with, not just living, not just surviving, but thriving. And I thought to myself, as I was cogitating, thinking this little thing over, what is the gematria of Shena? Sleep. It's 350. And I thought to myself, because in gematria you can do this, and I'm making this up, if you add the letters for the name itself, there's 3 letters, it's 358. What's the gematria of 358? Mashiach. What is Mashiach going to teach us all how to do? Go to sleep.
Wow.
You know the doctors, they tell you, what's the key to having health and life force? A good night's sleep. However, the good night's sleep that they suggest is usually preceded by another healthy thing they say to do, and that is to waste seed or things of this nature. And then you'll get a really good night's sleep. But then what happens when you wake up? You're groggier than before. However, what's the point of sleep? Sleep is supposed to wake you up, rejuvenate you. What's the concept of Mashiach? Rejuvenation. So Mashiach teaches us how to go to sleep. Not physical sleep, but spiritual sleep. How do you have spiritual sleep? Bitul. Through nullifying our ego, we sleep. Such a good sleep. A deep sleep. Can you imagine you get into that same fight you usually do, but instead of responding, you go into your car and you start talking to Hashem about what's happening, and you attribute to whatever's taking place, even though it mamish looks like you're the cause of that failure, even though it mamish looks like your parents just don't respect you, even if it mamish looks like that girl really just hurt you in a way that's not right, if instead of acting on that, you go to your own space, and even if it means you come crying, you say, Hashem, this is hurting me, but I know that this is from you, and everything that you do is because you love me. Why are you doing this to me? I don't know. But there's one thing for sure that's happened as a result of this happening. That is, I'm talking to you. So I'm closer to you. That's one thing. And if you say, Hashem, I don't know at all what's going on, but I am going to trust and believe that this is the best thing that could be happening to me, even though on paper this is the worst. And I'm going to live according to that belief. That is called Bitul. And you will draw down tremendous, tremendous understanding from nullifying your understanding. By nullifying your self-understanding, you tap into complete, unlimited understanding.
You go to deep sleep, you get deep intellect.
You go into a deep sleep, and then you wake up very refreshed, very rejuvenated, with new understanding. So, I wrote down here, you have good sleep. Mental health says it's key. The doctors say it's key. I say good bitul is good for spiritual health. Practice it. Even if it's fake. And if it's fake, say, Hashem, I am literally pretending that I believe that this is from you, even though I feel like I'm the cause of this, or this person's the cause of this. But Hashem, I'm begging you, please help me to believe that this is really from you. That is bitul at your level. Everyone has bitul at their own level. Just the fact that somebody might not act on whatever's going on and simply leave, that's bitul for them. So how can I achieve bitul? Rabbeinu Zal teaches like this. They asked him, Rabbi Nachman, you always talk to us about bitul. That sounds amazing. I would love to stop caring about my problems. I would love to not feel anger and distress and emotional confusion and psychological bilbul, flooding of negative emotions. How do you do it? Rabbi Nachman smiled and he says, it's very easy. Close your eyes and it's like you're not there at all. Okay, wonderful. What does that mean? And I had a chiddush, and I think Benny's going to like this. What happened as soon as Adam and Chava ate from the tree?
They went to sleep.
It said that their eyes opened up wide. Their eyes opened up wide because of what they ate. What was happening before they ate from the tree? They were not self-conscious. They were in a state of bitul. Then they ate from the tree and their eyes opened up wide. What happens when you can see really well what's happening in front of you?
You're scared.
Why? No. Because you think you know what's going on because you can see what's happening. You know, sometimes when I want to feel peace, I'll just take my contacts out and put them in the solution. And I'll literally just walk around without my contacts. And for some reason, this gives me tremendous peace. You know why this gives me peace? Because the fact that I can see is an illusion. I can't see nothing. I can't see anything. Chazal teach that this is Alma de Shikra. Everything that you see in this world is a lie. The fact that you can see those lies really well doesn't mean that you have 20/20 vision. It means that you see lies really well. So what does Rabbi Nachman say? When you feel distress, emotional discomfort, when you feel trouble lurking, when you feel yourself crushing under the weight of life, he says, close your eyes. And it's like you're not there. Because the whole concept of self-consciousness comes from sight. This is very deep. But if you close your eyes, you lose your self-consciousness because you can't see anything. And we know that Adam could only see like that after he ate from the tree. So what is Mashiach going to teach us to do? If anybody noticed, what's the pandemic that we're dealing with now? It's called COVID. What was the original name of that virus? Corona. Why? Because it was in the shape of a crown. What happens when we're in the midst of a virus that no matter what measures we take to deal with the virus, it keeps coming back and we don't know how to deal with it? What ultimately happens to people? They start to feel out of control. Now, if you think that you control your life, this is everybody's worst nightmare, 2020. But what if you know that you don't control your life? What if you closed your eyes and you said, this virus exists because Hashem wants it to? And if the whole entire reason that we're all suffering as a community, as a nation, as a universe, is because we think that we're in control, then maybe Hashem is trying to give us an opportunity to get a good sleep. But only Mashiach can teach us how to sleep. How can I sleep when there's a pandemic going on? Close your eyes. Bitul. Because Sheina and Mashiach are one. And I will end with this. Rabbi Nachman used to say, the only thing that Mashiach can do that I can't do is get people to listen to him.
Mashiach can get people to listen.
That Mashiach will get people to listen, where I do not have people listening to me. So I want to finish with the end of this piece, but I'm going to do it outside. Rav Natan explains what happens on Rosh Hashanah that wakes you up from your sleep.
Shofar.
Oh, the kol shofar. The kol shofar. According to Rav Natan, the kol, the sound of the shofar, is the sound of Bitul. And the shofar, the blast of the shofar, is when you actually listen. Because if you have a voice, but you don't have a sound, it doesn't do anything. I have a chidush, and I've said it before. What does Rabbi Nachman mean when he says the only difference between Mashiach and me is that nobody listens to me and everybody's going to listen to Mashiach? Because Rabbi Nachman is the kol. He is the voice. This voice can save your life. But the issue is you can't hear it because you don't have the instrument. There is only one thing that can allow you to hear that voice, and that's the voice of the shofar. The shofar is Mashiach. Mashiach is going to make a sound, but what's the sound going to be? It won't be his own sound. It'll be the sound of Rabbi Nachman's teachings, except you'll listen to him. You just won't listen to Rabbi Nachman. And this is the kol shofar that's going to wake everybody up from their bad sleep. And it's going to put you into the sweetest sleep. We know that when Rav Natan saw that his Rebbe, Rav Nachman, was going to pass away, he asked him for a bracha on his deathbed. Right? And if you're from here, what are you asking for? Parnusa. Tova. Someone else, you're asking for refuah. You're asking for geula. You're asking for amuna. What does Rav Natan say? What is said to him from Rabbi Nachman right before he passed away? I bless you, Nasala, that you should get good sleep. Oh. So now we can finally understand. Why is this the best blessing in the world? Because good sleep is geula. Good sleep is Mashiach. Good sleep is Bitul. The whole entire chiddush of Mashiach is going to be that the funnest thing in the world to do, and it's free, is to nullify your ego. And he's going to make you want to do it. Not against your will, but because you see that all blessing in life and all the answers to your problems will come when you achieve self-nullification. Bezrat Hashem, we should all achieve Bitul in this month of Tevet. And you should know that the Bitul comes from the Bitachon that we achieved in Hanukkah last month. Like we're connecting this month leads to that month. By having Bitachon in the Tzaddik, in his teachings about the fact that everything is from Hashem, then you can achieve Bitul. You can close your eyes to this world and you can say, Hashem, you are the cause of whatever is taking place right now. Everything you do is for the best, even though I don't understand. And I'm going to live with that. That's Bitul. And then you experience Mashiach even before he gets here. Does anybody have any questions from tonight's lesson? I know it was complicated.
One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What you say is very good. It's on point. But I have one thing that is still difficult. You have the emunah, you have the strength, and you have the bitul, and you have everything else. But you're dealing as a family man, as a grandfather, as an uncle, as an aunt, with a situation that is very, very difficult, but not it's your own.
Right.
Somebody else is suffering immensely.
Sure.
And the pain that they're feeling is intense for whatever reason, whether they're amputated or can't see or what have you. It's a real situation. And they're in pain.
Right.
So you're in pain because you are related.
Sure.
So what is that? You feel their pain.
Sure. Are you asking what to do about it, or are you asking?
What is that? As you have the emunah and all that, and you can close your eyes.
Yeah.
But there is still tremendous reality.
Sure. So Rabbi Nachman would say that you should pray for them. How much should you pray for them? You shouldn't stop. As long as you see that they're suffering in front of you, you should be praying for them. There's a very good chance, which is often the case with family problems, that there is a person in the family who Hashem believes a lot in, but he knows that the only way he is going to be able to see blessing in his life is when he stops thinking he can control his life. So what am I going to do? I'm going to bring him a family member who makes him feel out of control. Take it back to Hashem.
Even though you feel their pain.
Even though you feel their pain.
And they're in pain.
And they're in pain. The best thing that you can do for that person is say, Hashem, you are the cause of this, and I'm going to beg and plead with you that you're going to help me. And you don't give up. There is a way, Rabbi Nachman says, that everything in the end will turn out sweet. How is that possible? We cannot understand. But the whole greatness of the Geula is that it doesn't make any sense. That Hashem can make a world which looks like it's getting worse and worse and worse, and really behind the scenes it's getting better and better and better. And at one moment, the shofar blast is going to hit. We're all going to wake up from our sleep, and we're all going to have good sleep. Like we're dreamers. Any other questions?
The beginning of the Torah, it says Bereshit bara. Doesn't that say Big Bang?
That depends if you read a Gerald Schroeder book.
Yeah, Gerald Schroeder, a brilliant scientist. He was,
Yeah.
he was the author of Science of God.
Yeah. There's ways to understand the story of creation according to the Big Bang. In fact, the Ramban has a whole perush on the beginning of the Torah, and it sounds just like the Big Bang. He wrote about it 1,000 years ago. You can look it up. Any other questions? Yes. Yes. Everybody quiet, please. Just wait a couple more. You can leave if you want, but just don't speak. Yeah.
Like you were saying, you're going through a construction, right?
Yes.
And so in this moment, the ritual, you're supposed to like let go of your understandings and say that
Completely.
And then you said that you get, you get.
Guys, please be quiet. They were quiet when you were speaking. Thank you.
And then you said in that moment you get like
A higher clarity. Yeah.
Like on a practical level, like did you ever experience this?
Yes.
Like what is that? Like how do you do that?
How do I do the bitul, or how do I get the extra clarity?
Like, it sounds like lofty. It sounds like you're gonna
It's-
do this and you're gonna receive this clarity, but on a practical level, like how does that happen?
So it'll only happen when you completely let go.
How do you know you're completely letting go?
If you're happy.
And then what happens? Like you're happy, and then how do you know you've attained this like clarity?
You'll know because you have a new revelation that you understand something now you didn't understand before.
So I have I feel like I've had this, but sometimes I wonder how like tricking myself.
You're not tricking yourself.
Into thinking something.
No, you're not tricking yourself.
So when you're happy, no one can upset.
What?
When you're happy, no one can upset.
When you're not concerned about how people perceive you or how people feel about you, because you're not concerned about self-fulfillment, you're actually running after a goal, you're not trying to bring something to you, so then you don't get upset at what people are doing anyway, because you're not concerned about self. All anger comes with concern with self. If you look at the cultures that deal with the greatest anger, it's the ones that promote that you need to stick up for yourself, that you need that everybody should feel you, that you need that everybody should listen to you. Those are the angriest people. But if you go to real tzaddikim, you'll notice that they don't get angry. How do they don't get angry? Because they're not there. But they're there. No. They have no yesh, they have no ego. No. Let's say, for instance, I remember one time a couple years ago, guys, please be quiet. The class is still questions, answers. A couple years ago, I had a student who came into the class. I don't think he was mentally completely well. He came to a couple classes. He seemed to really enjoy it. And then in the middle of one class, he got very upset. Just move to the side so he can see. And he started to say terrible things about me. And he did this for a longer time than you can imagine. And I did not respond. And because I didn't respond, he continued to lay it on more and more and more. And I said, thank you. I told him that I loved him. I told him that I'm going to pray for him. He was getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And ultimately he left. And all my students said, David, you have to stick up for yourself. How are you going to let these people walk all over you? I don't know. How are you going to let these people walk all over you? Nobody's walking over me if there is no me. It's not like saying that. It's not like saying that. No. Respect for yourself comes when you know that yourself is one with Hashem. I know this is very hard. When I give a lesson, it's not because this is easy to do. This is very hard to do. This is the hardest thing to do. But it doesn't change the fact that this is the emet. Our unhappiness and our inner distress comes from the fact that we will not let go of the way that we feel something should be, because that's not according to the way that we feel that people should relate to us, to ourselves. However, if you didn't concern yourself as much with yourself, then it wouldn't matter what a person does to you. Imagine, for instance, you came out, you just did your hair, and your mom says, what type of makeup was that? You look stupid. Yeah? I don't know, because I don't have any sisters, so I never had this situation. I made it up. Hopefully it resonated. Yeah, it's good. So if you're concerned that everything matters about how you look, then that's going to hurt a lot and you're going to get very angry. But what if I'm getting ready only because I need to get ready? And my goal is not that I am how I look. I just am good. I'm not good because I look good. I just am good.
So I think this, like, I think this one entire concept.
Yeah.
I think it's like you're working on it your whole entire life. I don't think you can just like one day.
It's not a one day thing, but if you don't work on it, you can never achieve it. That's one point. And the second thing is, everyone's going to tell you that when you get angry, just don't get angry. But you know that doesn't help. But when you understand that Bitul is not giving up, Bitul, self-nullification, is you achieving a higher level. You're constantly wanting to achieve this level. If you don't want to achieve Bitul, then you will get hurt all of the time and you won't learn from it to actually change. This is the reason why Rabbi Nachman is so important for all of us, because by hearing it over and over again, then when you go back home and let's say you do hipodadut and you listen to that, because that's another big part of Bitul, because he says it's impossible for you to achieve Bitul without doing hipodadut. So let's say now you go home and you spend now a period of time talking to Hashem. You're already achieving Bitul just by doing that, because as soon as you start talking to Hashem, you've already admitted that you don't control your life, because otherwise there'd be no reason to speak to him. Now, once you get out and now you go home and your mom says something to you, but you just spent an hour in a class and then you spend 10 minutes in your car talking to Hashem. Now, all of a sudden your mom says something, you go, oh, Hashem just wants me to realize this is from him. But you couldn't do that if you simply went from work to home, because you need to have this constantly being internalized. Yeah, spiritual exercise. You need to keep working on it. The spiritual exercise is called hibodadu. But you also need continual education, just like in medicine, in doctors, psychology, in any professional field, you need continuing education. You need continuing education more than any of that with what's called bitul. But know that what's waiting on the other side is geula. It's not like, oh, I have to do this so I'm not angry anymore. It's literally the highest level you can possibly achieve. And it's in the realm and possibility and domain of every person to do it. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it's harder not to.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
You know how you said we're not supposed to like understand everything
Right.
that's happening to us? So I get that. But then there's also like Hashem sends you messages throughout your life.
Right.
Right? We're not just floating around here.
Yes.
So how do we
Know when to do what?
yeah, like I'm supposed to like pick up on a pattern, for example, if I'm constantly
Sure.
running across the same situation. So how do I know if I'm reading into Hashem's messages the right way, if I'm trying to understand like what's he telling me?
If it's bringing you greater peace and connection and joy, then it's true. If it's making you more angry and confused and distressed, it means that you're not picking up the right messages.
So the message that I'm reading has to make me feel better, like it's supposed to be.
Yeah, because the truth makes you besimcha. That's why it's called simcha Torah. This is a very important thing. This took me a long time to figure out, and I might have heard it a million times, but then one time it really hit me. If it's really true, then it's going to make you feel better. Rabbi Nachman says, the truth is not what hurts, lies are what hurt. Okay? Yes?
Yitzchak,
Yeah.
he was gathering all his grandkids and his kids,
Okay?
right? He blessed Yosef kid, Menashe Ephraim.
Yeah.
When he was about to say about Mashiach, he lost the
I think you're talking about Yaakov and his children.
was it Yaakov?
Yeah.
Yaakov. He lost his
Ruach. He lost his
the,
understanding that when Mashiach was going to come.
so too, when we think we know it all and we're ready to give, sometimes we give the information. Maybe that's what is called the forgiving. When we give people attention like that, ideas, we're losing our own impact of sleep.
It could be there are times when you try and give over something to somebody else and you end up losing it. That's true. The best thing to do is to internalize what you know yourself, and when it's a part of you, give it over. Okay.
Can I speak to?
Just one second. I just have to end the class because it's already pretty late. I could speak to you for a second after. Tomorrow we have a class, the Likutei Halachot, at 10:30 a.m. Bezrat Hashem, and then the next day, same thing. And then Tuesday night we have Likutei Moran, very important class. 1 second. It looks like there's questions on the bottom here. He's saying to ignore, it's not saying to ignore your situation. He's saying to close your eyes, meaning to stop trying to understand what's happening and to understand only that this is from Hashem and it's the best thing for you. And to live with that understanding, not what you see. Someone Okay, Lior, Bezrat Hashem. If you can email me, that would be great. My email is rabbikalmus@gmail.com. And Bezrat Hashem, I'm going to email you back. It will be the same Zoom link tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem. Everybody
Rabbi,
have an amazing night.